Hello.
Hello.
How are you doing? Welcome, everyone, to How Do Artists, a show that focuses on a single topic of conversation and asks the question, how do artists live, work, play, run their business, stay inspired, or handle challenges and adversity from an artist's perspective? Our show will speak with a diverse group of artists and creatives, and you, as our listeners, will have a chance to ask your own questions during our Q&A segment towards the end of our show. I am your co-host, Karlana Pedersen, artist and illustrator, and I am joined by co-host Ryan Caldwell, musician and producer.
Thank you, Karlana. Our conversation today is how do artists stay authentic? Our guest today is Stephen Booth. Booth is an artist, author, editor, publisher, and entrepreneur. He has been working in the publishing industry since 2010 and is now the CEO and publisher at Genius Books and Media Incorporated in Los Angeles. He and his wife Leah publish a range of books from true crime humor to coffee table photo books. He is the author of 10 published books, 9 of which are novels and 1 nonfiction. He has also painted over 250 oil paintings and a couple of acrylics since late 2015. Stephen and Leah, a school administrator when she is not editing, have worked from home since 2010 and spend far too much time entertaining a revolving collection of cats. Welcome, Stephen. How are you, and how has your week been so far?
Yay! Hi, Stephen.
Hello. Thank you. My week has been very good so far. Actually, I'll tell you, this is the second podcast I've been on since this week.
Whoa!
I'm not usually on this many podcasts. It's unusual, but I work with a nonprofit organization, and they had me on their podcast talking about how I am helping them communicate
Nice.
to their constituencies. So this is number 2 for me.
Well, that's fantastic. Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely.
Well, let's jump into it. So, how do artists stay authentic? Oxford defines the word authentic to mean something of undisputed origin, something genuine. Although that definition covers a lot of bases, I want to know what that word means to you.
Well, I'm glad you defined it. Actually, I was working on that, trying to figure out what I was going to say when I came here. Authenticity to me means staying true to yourself. It means not compromising your passion and your heart, particularly for in trade for something that isn't as valuable, like what's the word I'm looking for? Oh, I lost it. I had it a second ago. Approval. That was the word I was looking for. Not trading authenticity for approval.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
No, I like that. I like that idea of not trading authenticity for approval, because it kind of harkens back to the like the teen drama sitcom stuff, where it's like, no, don't sell your soul to hang out with the cool kids.
Exactly. Well, that's not a problem for me. I never hung out with the cool kids, and at least not until recently. So,
Ooh.
But authenticity is a lot to me. Is a lot about being following my heart. I mean, I don't know. I don't have a better way of phrasing it right now. Being passionate and staying with that passion.
Well, expand a little bit on that. Following your heart. What exactly did that mean to you in terms of how this related to your work specifically?
Well, let's try this. I started writing in, I think it was 2005 or something like that. I'd have to go back and actually look. When my writing career took off, it was more when I started writing with another author. His name is Harry Shannon. He's a rather well-known author in the horror genre. It was cool. It was like, people, I go up to people and say, "Oh, I'm writing with Harry Shannon." They go, "You write with Harry Shannon? Oh, that's so cool." And it's like, writing with my dad, because I've known him for years. But the voice of the characters in the zombie novels that I wrote, we wrote a series of zombie novels, is the voice of Harry and me. And that's lovely, but I could never do a reading because it doesn't sound like the inside of my head.
Right.
Okay, and that's my point. I've actually published a couple. I just recently published in I think it was May of 2020 my first solo novel. okay, which I wrote actually about 10 years ago. And still, no, truly, and it deals with a pandemic. You know, my wife insists that I presaged COVID, but I really didn't. It's a completely different type of disease. But I would be happy to do a reading of that novel because it sounds like the inside of my head. It's authentic to me, you know. And I'm having a fan. I'm hoping is listening. His name's Lord Wilfredo Sai. I'm not making that up. That's his name.
Oh, yeah.
And he's in the Philippines. And I just gave him an unpublished novel that I was telling him was my soul baby. It really is. I love this novel. It's probably not publishable, but it's absolutely me. And I would be delighted to see the light of day because it's really who I am. It means a lot to me. So that, you know, authenticity is really, I mean, I'm not always successful in living in that space, but that's what I strive for.
Nice. No, I think that's brilliant. Also also shout out to Lord Sai.
Yep. Oh, there he is. Yep.
Okay. Well, so I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that you would describe your work now as authentic.
Yes.
How long did it take you to get there? And what was there kind of like a moment where you're like, no, this work is actually me?
Really, for me, that moment was when I started writing solo projects. As much as I adore Harry, and as much as I'm grateful for the process, you know, for the experience of writing with him, I really learned a lot about writing novels from working with him. You know, it wasn't until I started writing my own stuff for the purposes of publishing, because I'd written a lot of stuff by that point. You know, it was 2005 to 2010. I'd probably written 4 novels that will never see the light of day, thankfully. But you know, once I started writing in my own voice, it really started making a difference to me as far as how I'm expressing myself, and I think we talked about the fact that I'm also an oil painter. Well, sometimes acrylics, but when I started doing painting in 2015, I was doing it as gifts. Okay, gifts for friends, because it was cheaper than, you know, buying something, whatever, and it's a better gift. Right. But it wasn't until I started doing figurative art. I did some castles. I'm big on castles. I have a minor in medieval history, and so I did some castles, and I did some bridges and some landscapes and stuff like that. But then I did some figurative art, and I'm like, okay, this is where my head is. And I started doing airplanes and figurative arts, and it's what my wife calls chicks and jets. I'm not making that up. I actually had chicksandjets.com for a while, but it didn't fly. No pun intended. So, you know, but it wasn't until, I don't know if my family's listening, but I have to go out of my way to not consider whether or not my mom or my sister is going to like whatever it is that I'm doing while I'm working, because you know, I want them to love everything that I do. But at the same time, I have this picture in my head that they don't want me doing things. I do a lot of girls and stuff like that, you know, and I don't want to upset them. But at the same time, if I don't follow my heart, I'm not going to do something that's really that's going to make me happy, you know. Right. And the more I make me happy, the more likely I'm going to make somebody else happy. So,
no, I like
absolutely,
that.
Absolutely. And so you're involved in art, and you're involved in writing. Mm-hmm. Now, and you just mentioned that you are always cognizant of what other people think, what your family mm-hmm. thinks, and how people perceive your art. Through that, what are you doing to rein yourself in to remain authentic? Because that's a pretty big burden, I would say, mm-hmm. and as an artist. If I every single time I took a paintbrush and had to worry about what other people thought about my work, I don't know if I would get any work done, because that can be a heavy burden. So how do you work through that?
Well, Often I don't. I mean, Karlana, you and I had a conversation on Facebook not too long ago. I actually posted on our artists,
I know, I read it, and it struck a nerve in me. When you posted that, and just for those who don't know what we're talking about, you had posted in our group. We are among a group of artists that communicate with each other, and you had posted in this group that you were genuinely struggling with this idea of what's going on with your work in terms of how other people view it.
Right, exactly. And so it's easy to fall into that trap. It's not the word I want, but it's the one that comes to mind, of wanting to be accepted, get that approval. It's like what I said at the beginning, get that approval. And there's this fallacy that if you give up your authenticity, you'll be more, you'll get more approval. And that's not the case. You ask me, how do I rein myself in? It's the opposite. I have to throw off the chains of pretending like I know what other people want, and trying to conform to that model in my head of what I think other people want. I have to focus, and I don't do this all the time. It's what we were talking about a moment ago, but I have to focus on what it is that appeals to me, makes me happy, makes me feel, engaged or emotionally invested or passionate or whatever term you want to use.
Right. Valuable.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Valuable.
Yeah.
Producing art that makes you feel that it's valuable because it means something to you.
Right. And I have my art everywhere. I don't have any space for anybody else's art because it's all over the place. And I like looking at my own art because it's like looking at the inside of my head. I don't know. I don't have a better way of phrasing that. It's like what I was talking about with the writing. When I started writing my own voice, I started really engaging with my own work. Yeah. And the art is the nonverbal version of that.
No, I absolutely identify with that too. Like it's often seen as it's kind of weird because, chefs are allowed to enjoy their own food, but typically artists are frowned upon if they're glorifying only their own art everywhere. Yeah. Same thing with musicians. You're not really allowed to go and sample your own sauce that much. If you're listening to it too much after you're done with it, then you're kind of self-obsessed. But on the other hand, I like it because it's stuff that I know I can connect with.
You're right.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's obviously meaningful to you.
And I mean, I made the choices I did because I like those choices.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I relate to that. I understand that, especially the comment about there's an element of your brain that's now that you can look at, because I do that too. I think I look at my art and I say, oh, okay, I know exactly what I was thinking, feeling. I know exactly how this came about and how it transformed and became a tangible piece of art. So I get that. I can't put up all of my art all over the house, though. There's like 3 other artists in my my kids and my husband who does photography. So
oh wow, okay.
I have to share the wall space, and that's good. It's okay.
And if you have open concept, there's no walls to hang things on. That's
right. You gotta have some walls somewhere.
Exactly.
So one of my favorite artist ploys is the seasonal artwork on the walls. It's like, well, once you filled up all your walls, you got to rotate it every season.
That's right.
Redecorate. Exactly.
You have to. Why would you just only feature the same art?
Exactly. And also, after a while, something that was really special to you kind of dates a little bit, and you have to go to the new good stuff. And but and I can look back on my art and go, I remember the first time. There's this one piece in particular, which it's another figurative art, but I remember looking at that and going, wow, this is the best piece I've ever done. And I look at it now and I'm going, that was a long time ago, but I remember that feeling of thinking that's the best I've ever done. And it's a really it's a nice feeling to have that engagement with your own art. And it may be perceived as being, egotistical or narcissistic or whatever. But you know what? Kind of the conversation that we're having is, who cares what other people think?
There you go.
Well, it's true. You have to make your own peace with your art.
Exactly. And go ahead.
No, you go.
Please, by all means.
One thing I wanted to bring up is on, I was Monday or Tuesday, I can't remember. I finished a novel.
Ooh.
And I'm very proud. This is a novel that was supposed to be finished in 13 months ago. Okay, it was right, but it was supposed to be done last December, not the one we just had, but the one before that. Right. So I finally got my headspace into this novel, and I was rereading it after I'd finished it, which was finishing was huge for me. Sure. And I'm rereading that. I'm going, I remember when I wrote that, and I'd laugh at my own work, and I get engaged with my own work. And yeah, some people may see that as being narcissistic, but it's really a matter of that's the sound of my own head, and if I'm not authentic to that, for lack of a better way of phrasing it, if I'm not okay with the sound of my own head, then I would be in a lot worse shape than I am now. But really, and like I said, I don't always do this, but one of the things that I try to do is really be, sound like what I mean, say what you mean, and mean what you say, I guess is what is the phrase. But it's and my wife is reading the novel. She's beta reading it for me. She's also my editor. I said, so how are you enjoying it? She's on page 50 or something like that. And she goes, I really didn't like the prologue. I was ready to put it down after the prologue. But once I got into chapter 1, I can't put it down. And I'm like, yay, success, and that's kind of what I'm looking for. But at the same time, I can't, not everybody's going to love everything that you do.
Right.
And if you try and homogenize everything that you do so that everybody loves it, nobody's going to love it.
Yeah, that's the thing. No, I do really like that concept of it's like the 1,000 fans theory that I know that you're a fan of, and I'm also a fan of that idea. I think it's a brilliant concept that the most valuable stuff you can do is the most authentic stuff if you are a skilled craftsperson. Because I think I also want to put edit that worldview to go and include people who haven't quite gotten there with their craft yet.
I need to get a T-shirt that says I support bad art.
Oh yeah.
Because if you're not ready to do bad art, if everything has to be perfect, you're never going to get good.
That's true. And my views on bad art it's all subjective.
Right. Exactly.
Even things that you think are wonderful, someone is not going to like it. So it's all subjective. There's just levels of how we do things, or levels to how one accomplishes sort of the same thing that we're all trying to accomplish. So I never look at something, and even when people are just starting out and say that that's bad art.
I want to clarify what I meant by that. I'm not talking about what other people think. I'm talking about what I think. Yeah. If I do a piece that I'm not happy with,
we are all worst critics, and that's
exactly. Yeah. Because we have this picture in our head, and it doesn't come out on the canvas, or it doesn't come out on the page. We have to be willing to not live up to our own expectations. Otherwise, we'll never take risks.
Well,
that's true.
And I have there's a great quote I heard, I think it was a few months ago at this point, but it was, anything worth doing is worth doing poorly. Which I love that, because it defeats, it's the best line I found to defeat my own perfectionism. Because everyone gets this, where they get bound up and stuck, before they even start something, because they're afraid of it failing or going down like Hindenburg,
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if you think about it like, but if it's really important, if you really want it to be good, then you have to do it however you can, even if that is, the worst job imaginable.
Right.
Even if it takes you, 13 months or,
Right. As long as you're still moving in that direction.
Exactly. No, that's another one for me, is even if I miss my own deadline, I still have to finish it. Yeah.
And if it doesn't live up to your standards, I work with a lot of authors as a publisher, and I also have a side business where I help self-publishing authors and other publishers publish their books. I'm a book designer. Okay. Yeah. And I get a lot of people coming to me and saying, Stephen, can you edit this? Do you do developmental editing? Okay. This is not a very popular opinion, by the way. They come to me and they say, can you do developmental editing? And my attitude is, you don't need a developmental editor. You need a writing coach. And if the book isn't ready for prime time, go write another book.
Yeah.
By the time you've written 10 novels, you'll know how to fix this one.
Right.
But there's a counter push on that, which is, no, if you believe in your novel, say, and you get 50,000 rejections, that 50,000 at first is going to take it, and it's going to be wonderful. And they pull up Dune or whatever, which I'm not a fan of, but nevertheless, but if you write 10 novels and then come back to novel one, number one, you can look at it and go, now I see what other people are seeing in this, and I can make it more what I intended because now I have the skills to do that sort of thing.
No,
And there's something to be said for experience. That requires experience.
Oh, yeah.
To do those 10 novels, or to do those 10 paintings, or to do those 10 pieces of art require that you put in the time and do the work. And that is also how I feel that you develop your authenticity. That is how you develop your style. That is how you develop what it is that you're looking for and looking to do and looking to put out into the ethos. Because without that, you don't know, I don't think you know where authenticity comes from as an individual artist. So with that said, we talk a lot about what it takes to be authentic. What are some of the things that can actually separate you from authenticity?
Wow. The number one thing that I experience with that is self-editing, trying to figure out what other people are thinking and then giving them what I think that they want. That's one of the reasons why I didn't write for a long time. The story behind my writing, and this is actually relevant, is I was talking to Harry, the same guy that wrote the novels with, and I was a teacher at the time, and I was struggling because I was teaching high school, and that's really hard. Okay, because it's like being teaching high school. It's like being a stand-up comic doing 5 different acts every day, new acts every day. And I'm not that kind of a person. I'm a sit behind my computer and do my work kind of a guy. Yeah. But some people thrive on that. Anyways, and I was explaining to him one day that I said, I'm not a creative person. I'm not very good with people. I don't know why I'm trying to be a teacher. It's not working for me. And he goes, and I know this is a family show, so I'm not going to curse. But he said, he said, fine, go write a novel. Show me that you can't do it. And I said, well, I can't. And he says, explain it to me when you're done writing it. And so I wrote that novel, and my friend Lord Sy, he's read it. He's probably one of the 3 people in the world who's read it. Anyways, so I wrote the novel, and I went, wow, I can do this. And then I wrote another novel, and I said, wow, I can do this. And I kept writing. If it hadn't been for Harry, I probably wouldn't have ever published anything because I didn't understand the storytelling process. Writing is not a problem for me. I can write. But storytelling is an art. And it's taken me, I think I've probably written in total 15 or 17 novels, not including the ones that I published. And it's taken me until basically now to get to the point where I feel my storytelling, the craft of storytelling, is in line with what I want to hear in my head. The stories that I tell myself are authentic to what I'm looking for. And, I'm not trying to just bring that word into this conversation. It's true. That's what what I want to do is I want to hear that. One of my favorite authors is a guy who, if you're familiar with Star Trek, he wrote The Trouble with Tribbles. Okay. Okay. Yeah. His name is David Gerald. I've met him a couple of times. He lives in Northridge, which is too far from where I live. One of the things that he said, or he's quoted as saying, is if you want to read a novel and nobody's written it yet, write it yourself.
Right.
Right. And that's kind of what I've been trying to do, is tell the stories that I want to read. And that's going back to the authenticity, because if I'm not unusual in my tastes, when I send out something for a beta reader, an editor, whatever, if somebody says, Stephen, this part is challenging me, I don't like it, I don't always take their edits. Oh, you need space aliens here. Well, this isn't a book about, this is a Western. You don't need space aliens. But if it's challenging for them, it's probably challenging for a lot of people. And if something appeals to me, the chances of it appealing to other people are high. Mm-hmm. And if it doesn't appeal to me, then the chances of appealing to other people is pretty low, I guess. But that's the kind of thing that I try for. Now, again, I don't always succeed. I allow myself to get trapped in, people are going to love me, and really, I that's that conversation that we had on Facebook that we were talking about. I literally let myself dive into that wallowing in self-pity thing. But once I heard everybody going, Stephen, your art is great. Keep doing what you're doing. And it wasn't the art is great part that was important. It was the keep doing what you're doing that was important to me. Yeah. Everybody goes through this. Don't stop. You'll find your art in what you're doing at some point. If it isn't today, it'll be tomorrow. And that really turned my attitude around.
Awesome.
Wow. That's fantastic.
That's well, actually, you know what? Speaking about your art,
Mm-hmm.
so okay, because your main two arts, I mean, with the literary and the visual, which
Mm-hmm.
one was the hardest one to find your voice in? Which journey to that was the longest?
That would be the writing. I've been doing that longer, and the reason for that is at one point I was producing a painting in about 4 hours. That was from the concept of drawing it up on the canvas to actually having the finished piece. So I could churn through a lot of art in a week, but it would take me 1,000 hours to write a book.
Right.
And so and the problem with writing a book is that you write the thing, and then you don't know what you have until you reread it.
Right.
And maybe you just wrote something that is terrible. I mean, and again, this is my definition of terrible for myself, not necessarily somebody else's.
Sure.
So I just invested 1,000 hours in bad art. But on the other hand, and that can be very disheartening. Whereas doing the visual arts, I go, boop, 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 I don't like that. Put in the garage. Boop, 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 I like that one. Hangs on the wall.
Right.
So, but this, for example, this book that I just finished, again, Monday or Tuesday, I can't remember which one it was. It was something that was meaningful for me. It's the log line is a group of geriatric demon hunters get caught up in the war between the gods for the control of the multiverse. Okay, and I don't do a lot of fantasy, but that's what this is.
That sounds fantastic.
For me, I when I reread it, it really said what I intended to say. Now that's 17 novels in, of which, like I said, 9 of which were 8 of which were written with somebody else. It was that that training of getting my thoughts down in a way that was organized and comprehensible that really made a big difference. But I think the writing took longer because it takes longer to write. I mean, you can write a short story in a couple of minutes, but I don't understand the short story process. I really don't. It's not my medium. I write novels.
Yeah, the short story thing is harder. Although that is kind of an interesting thing with experimenting with different form factors.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and because I've been thinking about that recently, because all songs are like 3 minutes, right? You're either writing a 3-minute song, but then I got into some of the film music stuff and the stock music stuff, which is all like 30-second bumper, 15-second bumper, And I was thinking, well, why can't you just release works that are different sized? Like, why not have a 20-minute song? Why not have like a 2-minute song, 1 minute? Yeah, and I think there's an interesting wave of that going around. But that's interesting that you find it hard to do the short stories.
Oh, I can't do them at all. I mean, maybe I haven't done them in a long time. And because I'm much more comfortable in novels. Okay. That's like I said, that's the medium that I'm in, but the stories that I've written, people don't go, wow. They go, huh? Or they go, huh? I wrote this vampire short story at one point, and the ending is really bizarre because it's not what you're expecting. It's a twist at the end. People go, oh.
Those are the best stories, though.
Well, I'm glad you think so. Maybe I'll send it to you, and you can tell me what you think. But and actually, I did have a publisher want to put it in an anthology. It was Horror Library 5, I believe it was going into, and then they found out that I self-published it a few years beforehand, and they said, "Oh no, we don't do reprints," and they rejected it. And it was a drag, and it really wasn't even the same story. It was just the same title.
Right.
But but as far as that, finding my niche, I write novels, I write speculative fiction, and as far as my art's concerned, I do women and planes and beaches, literally. I mean, those are the 3 things and combinations thereof. I have plenty of pictures of a girl on the beach with an airplane flying over. That's that kind of thing. So,
question about your artistic content, and this is just something that I was musing about this week.
Mm-hmm.
Why not cats? You are such a cat enthusiast.
I've done 2 cats. Both of them were in self-portraits. One with my cat Rue, and one with my cat Katniss. Yes, I named her Katniss. That's not true. I've done one with my niece. I did a portrait for my niece for Christmas about a year and a half ago, or last Christmas, not this one we just had. I did her cat, and it's the same thing. If you would ask me, why don't I paint men? Okay, it isn't because I don't like men as a subject. They're different. There are different conventions, and there are different rules to how they're shaped and what they look like and so on. And I've tried a couple of them, and I've done pretty well, but it's really like kind of the art that I did a few years back. Whereas the female figures that I do, I feel very comfortable with the concepts and the anatomy and the what I'm trying to say with each one of those. So it's not a matter of not doing cats. It's just they're all over the place. Why do I need to see more cats?
That's honestly fair. Yeah.
Okay.
No, that's incredibly fair. Also, I
Mhm.
mean, as far as things to go and draw, cats probably present some challenges with the shapes that they have, because cats can come. They're kind of shapeshiftery. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, people are the same thing too. Actually, I want to give a shout out to a piece of software that I ran across, which is called justsketch.me. It's a mannequin, like an artist mannequin software thing online. It transformed my figurative art. Because before I was doing copies of photographs.
Reference photos, you mean? Right?
Well, yeah, I'd literally print them on copy paper for my printer, and I'd sketch them and trace them onto the canvas, and then I paint them. When I found this software with justsketch.me, I was able to do what I wanted to do, my pieces, my vision of what's going on. And I've done some really fantastic stuff, and I've done some very normal stuff. But it freed me up to do what's in my head, what I've been looking for in photos for all this time. And so that, having that, not being constrained to somebody else's eye, made a huge difference to me.
Oh no, that's huge, because you're in control of your composition.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And I'm sort of trying to get to that point with the airplane art as well. Because there's 3D models software out there that I haven't really mastered and stuff like that. But I it's getting the lighting right. It's not even the what do you call it? The pose. It's the lighting. If I can get the lighting right, I can do whatever I want. But I feel that my job as an artist is a lighting director.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I don't know if you feel that.
I do. I feel strongly about that. It is so dependent upon lighting and how light represents the subject, and it's the same in photography. So being a photographer, you are just manipulating light regarding your subject and how you represent that subject within that lens. So art is identical to that perspective. So yeah, I totally understand that. And I'm curious because you're in business for your art. You're selling books, you're selling your artwork, they're connected. And so there's a variety of people with a variety of different opinions about authenticity versus commercialism. And you can do this or you can't do that. And there's people who are very opinionated about one side or the other. Some people feel that you need to be uncompromisingly strict about your authenticity and how it's represented. And then there's the other camp that really want to focus on just the money aspect of producing something that is more commercial or more available to the marketplace. What are your opinions about that? And why is there such a schism between opinions in artistry, in art, and those that are in the business?
First of all, I don't remember who said it, but it's I don't know what art is, but I know it when I see it. Okay, which I think they actually said about pornography, and I think it was a judge, but that's neither here nor there. So everybody has an opinion about what it is that their tastes are, and I've learned that there's no accounting for taste. Okay.
Right. Everybody's got a different.
Everybody's got their own taste.
Right.
And, as far as taking people's opinions about things, especially in the literature world, Amazon reviews and stuff like that. My attitude, and I've told many authors this, is any review is a good review. Okay. Even if they pan it, people will go, wow, okay, well, that's their opinion. I mean, a lot of people who give a 1-star review are clearly just trolling. But if they give a 3-star review, it may get somebody to think about whether or not they want to read the piece, but they may decide to read it anyways and come and form their own opinion. Sure. And it's another name added to your to your list of reviews. My first novel, The Hungry, has 108, I think, right now, 108 reviews. But we published it in 2011, so that's actually not saying a whole lot. But for the most part, it's like a 4.2 rating on Amazon, which is actually pretty good. But going back to your question about, there's this schism between commercialism and following your passion. If somebody commissioned me, I've done a couple of commissions. As a matter of fact, I just did my art storefront giveaway, ended tonight. Okay. And the piece that I'm giving away is actually one of the first commissions that I ever did. It was a painting of a float plane, a seaplane taking off in front of Catalina Island in Los Angeles, or in California, really. If somebody wants to pay me, I'll do whatever you want within reason. If I can pull it off and it doesn't, go outside of my experience or whatever. I did a farm scene for a friend of mine in Missouri or someplace like that. I can't remember exactly where it was. And everybody loves this farm scene, and it's so not me. And I don't know what they were thinking, but if they want to pay me to paint a farm scene, that's great. Right. I think the next one he's going to have me do is a train. I don't know anything about trains, but I'm going to paint it if he asks me to. Right. But when I'm painting for me, and I'm just getting started on my art business. I haven't had a lot of sales. As a matter of fact, this apart from the 2 commissions and this giveaway, I haven't made any sales at all. But that doesn't stand in my way, because it's, a lot of it is marketing. I mean, I think that at the end of the day, the answer to your question is marketing, because I could paint all these paintings, and literally there's 7 of them right in front of me right now, not including the ones on the screens that I have at the side. And I could paint for myself until I'm blue in the face. Okay, but I at the same time, I kind of, people vote with their dollars. It isn't about the money for me, although money's nice. I like money. Money's good. If you want to give me money, go ahead. But it's really a matter of people saying to you, I value this thing, and I'm going to, and because of the nature of the world that we live in, I'm an economist by training. We live in a capitalist society. People vote with their dollars. So if somebody gave me, X amount of dollars for something that they really think touches their heart or their soul or whatever, that's good for me. Yeah, I can go spend that on groceries, but at the same time, I touch somebody's life. You know what I'm saying? And so as far as, people going, oh, you have to be commercial. You have to paint puppies or something like that. I mean, not that I have anything against puppies, but I don't know the first thing about painting puppies. I can barely paint cats, and I've got them all over my house. But if somebody said, Stephen, you're never going to make a living until you get into puppies, pivot to puppies. I would go, maybe I'll just go back to writing novels and painting what I feel comfortable with painting, and not selling it. And if after I'm long gone, somebody goes, oh, he was a good artist, let's buy everything he ever did. That's fine. I'd rather get paid now, but at the same time, it's really a question of, I'd rather connect with somebody, emotionally, passionately, whatever. And if I can do that through my art, I will. And I've done that through my published novels. People really like the novels that I've written. I mean, I haven't had sold 100,000 of them or whatever. The sales were pretty good, but the people who like them really like them. Oh, and yeah.
And that's where the difference is, because the people that you're talking to are the people that are purchasing within the marketplace. Mm-hmm. There seems to be, and when we talk about authenticity versus commercialism, there's the critics are artists themselves. Like if someone has something to say about whether an artist or that line of work is too commercialized, I feel like it's, well, if you were making money, you wouldn't care if that person was making money too.
Right,
So
exactly.
the criticism has always been from other artists within the circle to other artists.
Right.
I've never had a customer who I did a commission for complain because I was too popular.
Well,
Never happened. It's so there. It seems to be the schism really does come from within the artists themselves.
Well, not to get into the subject of jealousy or whatever. I mean, there's a lot of people who are like, I want to be as good as that guy. So, I mean, I actually said this at one point. This is about 2 years ago. This one guy, a high school friend, pointed out this artist, and he does these beautiful aviation art, and they're just so professional. And I said to, in my heart of hearts, I hate that guy because he's so much better than me. And actually, that's Steven Spielberg once said that about George Lucas, because in an interview, he said, "Oh, I hate that guy. He's so much better than me." And I think that's basically no, that's a real quote. I don't remember where I saw that.
I do seem to remember something of that nature.
So I would imagine if you're getting, a lot of authors get trolled by other authors because those people are, for lack of a better word, jealous of their success. And, and then of course there's people who, have success when they really, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine who's also a screenwriter, and he works in the entertainment industry, and he writes novels and short stories and stuff like that. And he compares good writing to people like Dan Brown. Okay, now I don't have a problem with Dan Brown. I happen to like the Da Vinci Code and stuff like that. But my friend really doesn't like him, and I think and part of the argument that my friend Eric has with Dan Brown is that he sold 50 million copies of something that Eric doesn't feel is very high quality. And, and I'm not calling him out for that. I'm saying his name because I like him and he's my friend. But at the same time, it's just like, if Dan Brown can publish stuff that is that, that challenged as far as just the writing quality is concerned, why can't you do just as well? That's his advice. So I can understand that other artists trolling each other and letting that get to them. But I think that's kind of what we were talking about to begin with, is just like, how do you not let it get to you? How do you not let this whole process of, am I good enough? Am I as good as the other guy? Am I good enough for the audience to like? All that and really, that's how we came to this topic when we were doing the tech check. It was just, I was thinking, well, geez, the answer is authenticity. Do what's in your heart. Forget what, literally ignore everybody. I said at the beginning, I'm challenged with painting things that my mom and my sister will like, and my mom and my sister are lovely, but I can't paint for them because I have the model in my head, which is probably totally wrong. Says if I do this, they won't like it, and therefore I will lose their approval. Right? Well, you know what? They're going to have to live with not approving of my art. Okay.
Right.
And I'll give you a kind of a more concrete example of what I'm talking about. When I was 17, I got my pilot's license. Okay. I thought I was going to go into the Air Force and fly A-10s and blow things up. Nice. And my eyes went bad right before the flight physical, and I couldn't fly. But anyways, one of the things that happened was when you're learning flying, you have to stall the airplane, right? Because sometimes it'll stall and it'll go into a spin, and you have to learn how to get out of the spin. I am terrified of falling. Okay, I don't mind heights. I'm terrified of falling. So I wouldn't stall the airplane because I'd have to fall. And so one day I remember psyching myself up to go do stall training, stall practice. And I said, look, today I'm going to die in this airplane, but God darn it, I'm going to do it in control. Okay. It's going to be me doing that. It's not the circumstances are going to be taking over. It's me doing it. And you know what? I learned how to stall. And I can tell you, I don't want to talk about the ultralighting, but there was a story that I'll tell you offline that was pretty hairy. But if I hadn't learned how to do that, I probably wouldn't have survived some of the stuff that I did in the ultralights. And it's the same thing with the art. I have to decide, today I'm going to die on this painting. Today, it's going to be the end of my existence if I do this painting, but I'm going to do it my way.
Well, Stephen, speaking of that painting, dying, you are going to get this painting done. You have a question.
Oh, wow. Okay.
From Lord Sai.
Okay.
Who asks, do you have a favorite painting? Which one is it? And why is it your favorite?
Wow. That's a good question. Hi, Lord. I do, but it's a kind of a revolving.
It's a revolving painting?
No. I think my favorite painting, actually, I wish I could, I got to go the other way. I think it's behind me, actually. There's a B17 painting right there behind me on the wall. It's sitting on the tarmac of a small regional airport, and it looks like they're going to just about to start the engines. And that's really the painting that means the most to me. Because it really represents what was inside my head. Okay. And yes, I have my favorite paintings, which I can't show you because it's a family show, that are behind the camera, that I really feel strongly about. But that painting and maybe one other are the ones that, if I were selling originals, I would go, I hope they pay me a lot of money for this because I don't want to give it up, that kind of thing. And I have to, and I can always, print them or whatever. It's not a big deal, but that one means the most to me, I think, because it really represented what I was trying to accomplish with that painting. So
nice.
That's fantastic. Yeah. I love that. And I really do like your airplanes. Oh my gosh. They are beautiful. I like your figures too. But I have an affinity towards, I do vintage cars.
Right.
And I do pinup art for photographers. So I often replicate airplanes with the pinup girls in the artwork. So I love that look and that style and that whole feel with that. So keep going. I think your work's beautiful. So don't get, like you were saying, don't be discouraged. Just keep going and be your authentic self, because that's what it sounds like you are doing. And I think that's what we can all take away from that. And it sounded to me too that you have to work through fear to be truly authentic. And so that's a great thought-provoking takeaway for me, is working through that fear to be your own self.
Well, I think that's the number one thing that stands in your way is risk. I'm risking a lot by doing this art. I'm risking a lot by saying these words or painting this image or whatever. And the risk is approval. What if nobody likes it? What if not only do they not like it, and they're it's not even that they're ambivalent about it. What if they hate it? What if what I do really engages them, and they come and they yell at me, and I'm a bad person and I'm wrong and all these things. And you know what? And that.
And have you ever had anybody do that to you?
No, never. Not once. Not once. They some people, I get that thing. That's about as bad as it gets.
The worst you can get is apathy.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the worst.
Yeah.
The worst is apathy. If someone is that emotional when they see something that you've done that produces that kind of response, whether it's, oh my gosh, I love it, or oh my gosh, I hate it, at least there's an emotion that you've provoked.
Oh yeah. It's a strong
apathy is the destroyer of all things good, right. I feel.
Just that's nice. Yeah.
They've just flatlined you. You can't get anything out of them. I think that's the worst. But
right.
Yeah.
Well, sorry to interrupt, but I was going to say, as we are nearing the end of our time slot, do you have any words of wisdom that you could drop for any aspiring professional artists who are struggling to find their niche?
Ooh.
Yes. I don't believe in tattoos. I know lots of people have them, but I always wanted to get a tattoo, one on each wrist. But the first wrist says you can do whatever you want. The second wrist says you can't do whatever you want if you don't know what you want in the first place. Okay,
that's a whole lot of writing.
Yeah, it is. That's why I didn't. That's another reason I want to get it. But at the end of the day, authenticity to me means seeking that thing that you want to do, because you can do it. That's doing it. I mean, as a book designer or whatever, or a graphic artist, I can do whatever I want. Can we put a puppy in this? Absolutely. Let's put the puppy in. The question is, what do you want? If you don't know what you want, you can't do what you want. And those are my words of wisdom: is figure out what you want and then go get it.
So do what you want, but know what you want first.
Yes.
There's your meme.
There, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'll get that and I'll print it up on a t-shirt.
Oh, you got it.
Oh my God, that's right.
You get to set it on the wings of a plane,
There you go.
There you
Exactly.
go. There you go. Well, you know what? This has been absolutely wonderful. Thank you, Stephen Booth, for joining us today. And thank you to all of our listeners and to anyone and everyone who participated in our show. We thank you again to Stephen Booth for being our guest today. And Stephen, where would you like our listeners to find you?
On the screen, there should be StephenBoothArt.com.
Very good.
Right.
Yep.
There.
Right there.
Okay. And then the other place where you can find my books is geniusbookpublishing.com, all one word.
Say it again.
Geniusbookpublishing.com. That's my publishing site. And you can find it on Amazon and so on. But that if you want to make me happy, come to Stephen Booth Art and poke around and sign up and buy things. That would make me really happy. So there you go.
Absolutely.
Nice. Well, I would like to thank everyone for joining the How Do Artists live stream podcast. And on behalf of myself and Karlana and Stephen here, I would like to say so long until next week. Same time, same place. Bring your questions and your curiosity, and we will see you then.